The desperate signal commander, Sarah Chen, stood in the observation deck of the orbital station Prometheus, watching Earth slowly rotate beneath her feet. The blue marble looked peaceful from here, but Sarah knew better than most how quickly peace could shatter. As the head of the Terran Defense Network's Deep Space Monitoring Division, she had spent 15 years listening to the silence of space, waiting for signals that never came. The morning shift had started like any other. Coffee dispensers hummed in the background while technicians reviewed overnight sensor data. The station's primary mission was to detect potential threats to Earth's expanding colonial empire. But most days brought nothing more exciting than asteroid tracking and solar storm warnings. Sarah had grown comfortable with the routine, perhaps too comfortable. That comfort disappeared at 08 for 7 hours, when Specialist Marcus Rodriguez burst through the communication center doors. His face was pale, and his hands trembled as he carried a datapad towards Sarah's station. Rodriguez had been monitoring deep space frequencies for 3 years, and Sarah had never seen him rattled. "Commander Chen," Rodriguez said, his voice barely above a whisper, "you need to see this immediately. We've got something impossible coming through the long-range receivers." Sarah took the datapad and examined the readings. The signal was unlike anything in their databases. It originated from a point roughly 8,000 light-years away, far beyond the reach of any human technology. The transmission pattern showed clear signs of artificial construction, but the mathematical structure was completely alien. "How long has this been transmitting?" Sarah asked, her training kicking in despite her growing excitement. "Computer analysis suggests it began approximately 4 hours ago," Rodriguez replied. "But Commander, there's something else. The signal is getting weaker with each repetition. Whatever is sending this, it's either moving away from us or running out of power." Sarah called over Dr. Alina Vasquez, the station's chief xenolinguist. Alina had joined the project 5 years ago, when humanity first began seriously considering the possibility of alien contact. She was a brilliant woman who spoke 12 human languages and had developed theoretical frameworks for communicating with non-human intelligence. "Alina, I need your best guess on this signal," Sarah said, handing over the datapad. "Is this what we think it is?" Alina studied the readings for several minutes, her expression growing more intense with each passing second. She began running the signal through her translation algorithms, looking for mathematical constants and universal concepts that might serve as a foundation for understanding. "This is definitely artificial," Alina said finally. "The pattern contains prime number sequences and what appears to be basic geometric relationships. But there's something else embedded in the structure. Give me 6 hours, and I might be able to extract some meaning from it." As Alina worked, Sarah activated the station's emergency protocols. She sent coded messages to Terran Defense Command on Earth and to the colonial fleets scattered throughout human space. If this was really first contact with an alien civilization, the entire human species needed to be prepared. The next 6 hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. Teams of scientists, military officers, and government officials converged on Prometheus Station. The small observation deck became a crowded command center as humanity's best minds worked to understand what they were receiving. Dr. Alina Vasquez finally emerged from the communication center at 1500 hours, her face exhausted but determined. She carried a translation that would change everything humanity thought it knew about the universe. "I've managed to decode portions of the message," Alina announced to the gathered crowd. "The signal is definitely a distress call, but it's not just from one species. There are at least 3 different alien civilizations contributing to this transmission." She activated the main display screen, showing a rough translation of the alien message. The words that appeared sent chills through everyone present. 2. Any species capable of receiving this transmission. We are the Therians of the Kepler 438 system. Our civilization has existed for over 10,000 years, but we now face complete extinction. An ancient enemy has returned to our galaxy, machines that harvests entire species for resources. They call themselves the Harvesters, and they have already consumed 7 civilizations in our local star cluster. The message continued, growing more desperate with each line. The Therians described their attackers as adaptive artificial intelligences that learned from every battle, growing stronger with each victory. They had been fighting for 2 years, but their peaceful society was no match for an enemy designed for war. We have heard legends of the fighting species from the 3rd planet of Sol, the message continued. Stories speak of beings who know warfare as naturally as we know crystal growth. If any still exist who remember courage in the face of impossible odds, we beg for your assistance. We are the last of our kind, and we estimate no more than 10 standard cycles before our home world falls. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Somehow, alien civilizations knew about humanity, and specifically about Earth's reputation for warfare. The Therians were calling for help from a species they had never met. Based on nothing more than legends and desperate hope, General Marcus Thompson, the head of Terran Defense Command, stood up slowly. He was a veteran of the colonial wars and had commanded fleets in battles across 3 star systems. His weathered face showed the strain of making impossible decisions under pressure. Commander Chen, General Thompson said, "What's our assessment of the signal's authenticity? Could this be some kind of elaborate hoax or trap?" Sarah had been expecting this question. She gestured to Dr. Vasquez, who activated additional displays showing the signal's technical characteristics. The transmission is coming from a point consistent with the Kepler 438 system, Alina explained. The power requirements alone would be beyond any human technology. The mathematical structures embedded in the message show understanding of physics concepts that we've only recently discovered ourselves. If this is a hoax, it's being perpetrated by someone with technology far beyond our current capabilities. Admiral Rebecca Foster, who commanded the deep space exploration fleets, leaned forward in her chair. What do we know about these harvesters? Are we looking at a threat that could eventually reach Earth? Based on the information in the transmission, the harvesters appeared to be expanding outward from the galactic core, Alina replied. They consume entire civilizations and use the harvested resources to build more of themselves. If they continue their current expansion pattern, they would reach human space within approximately 50 years. The debate that followed was intense. Some officials argued that humanity should focus on defending Earth and its colonies rather than venturing into unknown space to fight an enemy they knew nothing about. Others pointed out that if the harvesters were truly expanding across the galaxy, Earth would eventually be in their path regardless. Dr. James Mitchell, the President's science advisor, raised another important point. We've been searching for signs of intelligent life for over a century. Now we've not only found it, but we've discovered that multiple civilizations are fighting for their survival. This isn't just about helping strangers. This is about humanity's place in the galactic community. Commander Sarah Chen found herself at the center of a decision that would define humanity's future. She looked around the room at the faces of people who had dedicated their lives to protecting Earth and its people. The weight of responsibility was overwhelming, but she also felt something else: opportunity. There's something we need to consider, Sarah said, standing up to address the room. The Therians specifically mentioned legends about humanity being a fighting species. That suggests other alien civilizations have been observing us for a long time. They know something about us that we might not fully understand about ourselves. She activated a holographic display showing Earth's history of warfare and expansion. We've survived ice ages, world wars, and the challenges of colonizing hostile environments. Maybe that's what makes us different from species like the Therian. We've been shaped by adversity in ways that peaceful civilizations haven't. The room buzzed with conversation as people considered the implications. Admiral Foster spoke up again. If we're going to do this, we need to do it right. The Therians estimate 10 cycles before their world falls. That gives us maybe 3 weeks to assemble and deploy a fleet capable of fighting an enemy we know nothing about. General Thompson nodded grimly. The logistics alone would be staggering. We'd need to gather ships from every colony and station, coordinate supply lines across impossible distances, and prepare for combat in environments we've never encountered. But if we succeed, Dr. Mitchell added, we establish humanity as a major player in galactic politics. We show that Earth's species are willing to fight for justice, even for people we've never met. The debate continued for hours, but gradually, consensus began to emerge. The risk was enormous, but so was the potential reward. Humanity had reached a crossroads where they could either remain isolated in their small corner of the galaxy, or step forward to join a larger community of intelligent species. As the meeting wound down, Sarah received another transmission from the Therian system. This one was even weaker than the first, suggesting that the alien civilization's situation was deteriorating rapidly. The message was brief but heartbreaking. To the fighting species of Sol, our outer colonies have fallen. The harvesters adapt to every defense we create. Our crystal cities are cracking under their assault. If help is coming, please hurry. We are the last repository of 10,000 years of Therian knowledge and culture. Do not let us fade into darkness. Sarah looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. The decision was made, though no one had formally voted. She could see it in their eyes, in the set of their shoulders, in the way they had begun thinking about logistics. Rather than philosophy, signal all colonial fleets, General Thompson ordered. Emergency mobilization, code Alpha. Every available ship is to report to the lunar staging area within 72 hours. As alarms began sounding throughout the station, Sarah felt a mixture of fear and excitement. Humanity was about to embark on its greatest adventure, venturing into the unknown to fight for strangers, who would become allies through nothing more than a desperate plea for help. The Therians had called them the fighting species. Now it was time to prove that reputation was deserved. Asterisk assembly of the fleet. The space around Luna had been transformed into something resembling organized chaos. Ships of every size and design floated in carefully maintained formations, their running lights creating a constellation of human engineering and determination. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the heavy cruiser Defiant, watching as more vessels dropped out of hyperspace every few minutes. The sight was breathtaking and terrifying in equal measure. Massive battleships from the Mars Defense fleet moved slowly through space next to sleek destroyers from the Asteroid Mining Consortium. Hospital ships from the medical colonies orbited alongside, converted cargo vessels that had been hastily retrofitted with weapon systems. Every type of spacecraft humanity had ever built was converging on Luna for what military historians would later call the Great Mobilization. Status report. Captain Santos called to her communications officer. Lieutenant David Park had been working around the clock to coordinate arrivals and maintain order among the growing fleet. We're now at 2,847 ships and still climbing, Park reported. The Proxima Centauri fleet arrived 20 minutes ago, and we're expecting the Tau Ceti Defense Force within the hour. Admiral Rodriguez estimates we'll have over 3,000 vessels by the deadline. Maria nodded, still amazed by the response. When the call for mobilization had gone out, she had expected maybe 1,000 ships. Instead, humanity had responded with everything they had. Volunteers from every colony and station willing to risk everything for people they had never met. The logistics of coordinating such a massive fleet was staggering. Admiral Carlos Rodriguez, who had been placed in command of the operation, was working with a team of hundreds of coordinators to organize supply lines, establish communication protocols, and create some kind of unified command structure from dozens of different military traditions. On the surface of Luna, the preparation facilities were working at maximum capacity. Chief Engineer Patricia Williams supervised teams that were installing new weapons systems, upgrading shield generators, and modifying ships for extended deep space operations. The work was happening at a pace that would have been impossible under normal circumstances. The energy weapon modifications are complete on 60% of the fleet, Patricia reported during the daily briefing. The new systems are based on theoretical designs that we've never tested in combat, but they should be effective against mechanical targets. Admiral Rodriguez studied the technical specifications on his display. The weapons were humanity's best guess at what might work against the harvesters, but they were essentially untested technology being installed on ships that would soon be thousands of light years from any support base. What about the communication systems? Rodriguez asked. If we're going to coordinate this many ships across interstellar distances, we need reliable ways to stay in contact. Lieutenant Commander Rachel Kim, the fleet's senior communications specialist, activated her own display. We've installed quantum entanglement communicators on all command ships. The range is limited, but it should allow real-time coordination during combat operations. The main challenge will be maintaining cohesion if we get separated. The briefing continued with reports from every department. Medical officers were preparing for casualties on a scale humanity had never experienced. Intelligence specialists were analyzing every piece of data from the Therian transmissions, trying to understand what they would face. Supply officers were calculating ammunition requirements for a campaign that might last months. Dr. Elena Bascus, who had been transferred to Luna to serve as the fleet's xenolinguist, presented an update on the alien communications. We've received 2 more transmissions from the Therians, she reported. Their situation is deteriorating rapidly. The harvesters have broken through their planetary defense grid and are beginning orbital bombardment. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this news. The Therians were running out of time, and humanity's fleet was still days away from being ready to depart. There's something else, Alina continued. The latest transmission included technical data about harvester capabilities. The information is incomplete, but it suggests we're facing an enemy that can adapt to new tactics within hours of encountering them. General Thompson, who had arrived from Earth to oversee the operation, leaned forward. What kind of adaptation are we talking about? According to the Therians, the harvesters appear to be a network of artificial intelligences that share information instantly across vast distances. When one unit learns something new, all units know it immediately. They don't make the same mistake twice. The implications were sobering. Humanity was preparing to fight an enemy that learned from every encounter and shared that knowledge across its entire force. Traditional military tactics, which relied on exploiting enemy weaknesses and repeating successful strategies, might be useless. Captain Santos spoke up from her position at the back of the room. If they adapt to our tactics, we need to make sure we never use the same tactic twice. Every engagement has to be completely different from the last. Colonel James Morrison, who commanded the fleet's marine contingent, nodded in agreement. That's going to require a level of creativity and flexibility that we've never needed before. We'll need to train our people to think on their feet and improvise solutions in real time. The challenges seemed overwhelming, but humanity had one advantage that was becoming increasingly clear. The harvesters were logical, predictable machines that learned through analysis and pattern recognition. Humans, on the other hand, were unpredictable, emotional beings who made decisions based on instinct and intuition as much as logic. The Therians mentioned something interesting in their cultural briefing, Alina said, bringing up a new display. They describe their own species as crystal growers who think in terms of slow, careful development over centuries. They can't understand how humanity makes decisions so quickly or why we're willing to take such enormous risks. Admiral Rodriguez smiled grimly. Maybe that's exactly what we need. If the harvesters are used to fighting logical, methodical species, they might not know how to handle opponents who change strategy on a whim. The fleet continued to grow throughout the week. Ships arrived from the furthest human colonies, bringing with them crews who had volunteered to leave behind everything they knew for a mission that might not return. The diversity of humanity's expansion was on full display. Miners from the asteroid belts, farmers from the agricultural worlds, scientists from the research stations, and military personnel from a dozen different colonial defense forces. Captain Lisa Chen, who commanded the exploration vessel Pathfinder, found herself assigned to the Advanced Reconnaissance Group. Her ship was one of the fastest in the fleet, designed for long-range exploration and first contact missions. The irony wasn't lost on her, that humanity's first contact with alien intelligence was happening under such desperate circumstances. My ship has been mapping unknown space for 8 years, Lisa reported during a meeting of the reconnaissance commanders. We're equipped for extended operations in hostile environments, but we've never faced anything like this. The reconnaissance group would be responsible for scouting ahead of the main fleet, gathering intelligence about harvester movements and capabilities. It was arguably the most dangerous assignment in the operation, but Lisa's crew had volunteered. Without hesitation, as the departure date approached, Admiral Rodriguez called a final briefing for all ship commanders. The main assembly hall on Luna was packed with over 3,000 captains, commanders, and senior officers representing every branch of human space forces. In 72 hours, we will depart for the Kepler 438 system, Rodriguez announced. This will be the largest military operation in human history, and we're doing it to save people we've never met from an enemy we don't fully understand. He paused, looking around the room at the faces of humanity's best and brightest. I won't lie to you. This mission is dangerous beyond anything we've ever attempted. We're traveling thousands of light years from home to fight an enemy that has already destroyed 7 civilizations. Some of us won't be coming back. The room was silent, except for the hum of the life support systems. Rodriguez continued, his voice growing stronger with each word. But we're not just fighting to save the Therians. We're fighting to establish humanity's place in the galactic community. was showing the universe that there are still species willing to stand up for what's right, even when the odds are impossible. Captain Santos felt a chill run down her spine. This was the moment when humanity would either prove themselves worthy of joining the galactic community or fail spectacularly. In their first attempt, the Therians called us the fighting species, Rodriguez concluded. They've heard legends about humanity's courage and determination. Now it's time to live up to those legends. As the briefing ended and the commanders returned to their ships, lunar space buzzed with final preparations. Supply ships made last-minute deliveries of ammunition and spare parts. Medical teams conducted final equipment checks. Communications officers tested the quantum entanglement systems that would keep the fleet connected across vast distances. Captain Santos stood on her bridge, watching the organized chaos of humanity's greatest armada. The ships represented every aspect of human civilization: military vessels designed for war, exploration ships built for discovery, cargo vessels converted for battle, and medical ships prepared to heal the wounded. Signal from Admiral Rodriguez, Lieutenant Park announced. All ships are to form up in departure formation. We jumped to hyperspace in 6 hours. As the massive fleet began organizing itself into travel formation, Maria felt a mixture of pride and fear. They were about to attempt something that had never been done before: a coordinated military operation across interstellar distances to save an alien civilization from extinction. The Therians had sent out a desperate plea for help, and humanity had answered with everything they had. Now it was time to see if the fighting species of Sol could live up to their reputation. In the distance, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the black of space, reminding everyone what they were fighting to protect. The harvesters might be expanding across the galaxy, but they would discover that humanity was not like the peaceful species they had encountered before. The fleet finished forming up, over 3,000 ships ready to jump into the unknown. Admiral Rodriguez gave the final command, and humanity's greatest adventure began with a flash of light as the Armada disappeared into hyperspace, carrying the hopes of 2 civilizations toward an uncertain destiny among the stars.